Han Solo spots them right away. Says, hey, I know a thief when I see one. I know a bandit. I know an outlaw when I see one. I don't know what y'all are up to, but I want in. And they think about it for a second, and then, they turn him in, and he gets thrown into this pit.
Yeah, he gets thrown into the pit, and he's going to face off with the beast. And we're like, oh, snap. Is this a Rancor? No, it's our friend and pal, Chewbacca. Chewbacca is a little hostile because he hasn't eaten in 3 days. And he's like, okay, here's the drill. I'm going to beat up this prisoner that they throw in and eat him.
Let me out of here! Let me out!
It turns out Han Solo does know a little bit of Wookiee language. Well,
yeah, I speak a little now. Just listen.
I'm confused because Chewie gets talked to in English the rest of the movie, but at this point, he had to speak his language to him. Maybe he was doing that to say, hey, I'm a friend. I'm coming to you in your language. Please don't murder me. Because I'm sure everyone else that Chewie's murdered down there has also begged for their life.
You tired, you mangy Kashyyykian moof milker?
Killed him too fast.
Yeah, kill him slower.
Hey, what's poppin', Colonels? Welcome back. It's Just Play It. And you Colonels can't pop without a Colonel pop. And that's me. I'm one of your hosts. I am James. I invite you to enlist in the Imperial Popcorn Army, fly a TIE fighter straight into a popcorn bucket, and watch that shit pop and make a mess on the concession stand floor, because that's what we're all about over here. We're about being chaotic, and I can't be chaotic without my co-host, the corn dog himself, Mr. Nick.
What an intro. Making a mess on the floor, spilling it all out. I love it, buddy. That's right. I'm Nick. I am the corn dog. I am the buddy with the batter. I don't know, James. You fluster me because your intros are so good, and I feel like I have to get up to your level, and I just know that I can't.
Well, I make a tough lead to follow because you don't really know where I'm coming from or what I'm going to do.
I'm trying to dip, dive, dodge, duck, and dodge, and I can't.
Hey, welcome in, everybody. It's Star Wars week here at Just Play It. We're a little bit early on May the 4th. This is going to be May the 1st when this comes out. But we like to make an annual tradition of watching Star Wars movies. And we did Star Wars The Clone Wars last year. So we figured, let's pick it up with another anthology series for this go-around. And we are watching Solo, a Star Wars story from 2018.
Yeah, I feel like this one got a little tough love. It's a tough one, right? It was coming out in between the final trilogy of the Skywalker saga, and I like the way they did that, right? They came out with 7, then they came out with
Rogue One.
Rogue One, gosh, talk about blanking. Then 8, then Solo, then 9. And so they were able to keep the Star Wars fans happy by pumping out product, which I enjoy.
Yeah, Lucasfilm and Star Wars fans were not used to that because we had the original trilogy in the late 70s and early 80s, had to wait 15, 20-ish years for Phantom Menace, got the prequel trilogy, and then it kind of just went silent. And then they said, oh, by the way, there's this Cartoon Network show called The Clone Wars. You can check it out if you want. And spoilers, it was awesome. But we were really starving for movies there for a second. So Revenge of the Sith, I want to say came out, 2003, 2005? 10 years later. Actually, it's pretty quick for Force Awakens to come out.
Yeah, I feel bad for Solo. We'll go over what we think of the movie, but you got sandwiched in between the disaster that was Episode 8 and the shitstorm that was Episode 9. And so it doesn't matter how good you are. When you're shoved between two moldy pieces of bread, you can't make a sandwich. And so you're always gonna leave a bad taste in someone's mouth.
Well said. I remember when this came out, I didn't see it in theaters right off the rip. I just remember people kind of ragging on it. We were talking about it pre-recording about how it's tough to take a character that everybody knows and loves, someone that's iconic like Han Solo, an iconic performer like Harrison Ford, and trying to reimagine it or show them in a origin story light, it's going to be very critical from the fans that already know and love Han Solo from 3 films. It had a tough start and a lot to deliver on, and you're not going to make everybody happy.
And how they killed off Han in episode 7. They really didn't do the character a lot of justice.
No.
And so fans were already leery about the treatment of Han, and Star Wars fans are just an impossible crowd to please.
They're one
regardless.
of the most pickiest crowds, I think.
Not like I don't agree with them with some of the shit that's come out recently from the movies, the latest trilogy. I'm with you on that, Star Wars fans. But they also have a hard time seeing the silver lining to things and enjoying something for what it is. Like, oh, it's a space movie with this thing called the Force. Just let it be sometimes, you know?
It's not that deep, pal. It is Star Wars week. Nick, I am wearing... I've been sitting on this shirt for months. I ordered it. Can you see it? Can you see who's on my shirt? Can you see who's on my shirt here?
Is that Red Leader 1?
That is Red 6 standing by. This is Porkins, played by William Hootkins, who is a friend of the show because he was Eckard on Batman 1989 and one of the government guys from Raiders. Been sitting on this for a while. Been waiting to bust it out for the Star Wars recording. I got Porkins on my chest, baby. Pork style.
He's porking it.
I'm porking over here.
Yeah, I'm porking.
So we've set the Force vibe, but we can't get this party started until we warm up, and it's our new tradition, weekly tradition. We're going to go into our quiz time, and we invite you guys to play along. Now, this is the Cinematrix quiz provided by vulture.com. It's a daily quiz, and it's a grid style. There's 3x3 grids. There's a combination of categories and actors, 3 in a row on top, and then 3 in a row vertically. And we need to make matches of those categories and or actors with a movie that connects the two. All right, Nick, what do we have for the rows on the top, the horizontal rows? What do we got?
On the top row, we have animated. We have 4+ words in the title, and we have release date 2005 to 2014.
How do you feel about those categories?
Off the bat, I feel great.
I feel like long titles are something that are easy to remember. 2005, 2014 is a very recent decade, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to do well with those 3. I'll read the next row of categories and actors. All actors, actually. We have Steve Carell, Jack Black, and Kristen Wiig. Nick, on a scale of 1 to 10 popcorns, how confident are you? Fully popped or burnt kernel?
I'm fully popped right now.
Oh, yeah, he's fully popped.
I feel real good.
So we have our categories. Nick, what square do you want to start on?
Let's start with Steve Carell animated. Steve Carell animated. What do you got?
Oh, I feel like there's a lot of Seth Rogen circle movies that might come into play here. Like, was he in Sausage Party?
I couldn't tell you that.
Or Monsters vs. Aliens or something? Oh, you know what? I'm thinking of one where he played a squirrel, and it was like The Backyard or... Oh, crap.
Was it
something with the hedge.
Over the Fence?
Over the Hedge, I think.
Over the Hedge?
Yeah.
Was he in that?
I believe he played the squirrel.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Do you have an answer for that one?
Well, my head naturally goes to any of the Despicable Me movies.
Oh, duh. I'm going for a deep cut over here, which is, I think it's a risk that we are willing to take because, for a reminder, you get higher points for a more obscure movie guess. However, we do only have 9 guesses for 9 squares. So if we mess up once, we are not going perfect, and we're playing for pride at that point. Nick, I am 99.999% confident that Steve Carell played the squirrel in Over the Hedge. And are you willing to guess that with me?
You know I'm ready to guess that with you.
I'm hitting submit now.
Boom, baby.
I got Porkins on my chest.
7%.
Porkins already going to work, dude.
He's porking it.
I'm porking over here. Do you want to stick on the animated train here? Just work our way down the actors?
Let's do that.
Next up, we have Jack Black, and the category is animated. You should be able to answer this.
It's just, which one do you want to go with?
Just go for like the 4th one or something. because let's see what pops up. Obviously, we're talking Kung Fu Panda. Let's go with 4. No, let's go with 3.
3 it is. You ready?
Kung Fu Panda 3 on 3. 1, 2, 3. 17%.
Okay, 17%.
You'll like to see it.
Pretty
You'll
good.
like to see it. For Cinematrix, they do like to have a lot of crossover here of movies to kind of trick the players. So working our way down the animated movie line, we are now approaching Kristen Wiig. And I want to say that she's in some of these same movies as Steve Carell or Jack Black. And I'm thinking she's in Despicable Me as like a love interest.
She might be. I don't know which Despicable Me that was. I do believe she was in Sausage Party. She was the main female lead. I also know she's in How to Train Your Dragon.
Is she?
She is.
Who's she play?
One of the... Oh, who is it? I can't look it up because I don't want to confirm or deny. But I'm almost positive.
Is it the main chick? Astrid?
No, not her.
Okay.
Something with a silly name, I think. I've seen it once.
Again, with the trickery dickery, do you want to save that for 4 words in the title? Because can you think of another Kristen Wiig movie that has 4 words in the title?
I cannot.
It's probably out there, but your mind just goes blank when the intimidating quiz music is ticking and the spotlight's on you.
It's a good point.
If you know for a fact that she's in How to Train Your Dragon, I would pocket that for the 4 words one.
Yes, I also know she's in Sausage Party. I feel pretty good about
Do you know that for a fact?
You got to trust me on this one. I'm like 99.
You trusted me on Over the Hedge. I'll trust you on Sausage Party. I'm going to cue that up now, and I have it ready. Are you ready?
I am. Let's do this.
After you, Butch.
Okay.
Stupid. 20%, by the way.
Stupid
Just
poster.
The poster that comes out. A wiener that's looking a little stiff. Okay, let's just move over to, you want to go 4 words in the title?
Let's do it. Steve Carell first.
4 plus words in the title. I have my answer right off the rip.
Me too. What do you have?
It's the 40-year-old virgin.
Oh, that's it. Let's do it. I was going to do the Incredible Burt Wonderstone.
Oh, that will probably be more rare.
Do you remember that one? Like the early 2010s?
Yeah, no, that's going to be
He
the
was
more
Burt
obscure
Wonderstone.
one. That's going to be,
Yeah.
he was like a magician or something.
Yeah, it's it's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, we're going to go with the Incredible Burt Wonderstone.
Let's do it.
Oh, yeah. Dude,
2%, baby.
2% of the population playing this knows about the incredible Burt Wonderstone.
Oh, boy.
What a shitty looking movie.
It's very bad.
Okay, Jack Black and 4 plus words in the title. Nick, do you have anything? I'm gonna probably need to think about this one.
Yes, I do have something. Tenacious D, The Pick of Destiny.
How could I forget?
It's a tough one.
Okay, I'm comfortable with that one.
Let's do it.
Guessing. Yeet.
31%. What else gets that?
Okay, moving on to the last one here in 4 plus words in a title, along with Kristen Wiig. We hinted at it before, and I think we're going to go with How to Train Your Dragon.
I don't know if she was also in number 2, if that'd be more obscure, but
Is she
I know
in
she
number
was
2?
in number 1. I don't know that.
Let's just do number 1. We don't have to get all cute on
Let's not
pick
get
6
aggressive.
here. Let's not get a
Yeah.
pick 6 on pick 6.
We're feeling hot.
Okay, I'm guessing. Oh my god, 4%.
Wow. Unless people burn that for the animated movie.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm wondering what's the most popular movie with her in it that has 4 words in the title.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, now we're going to wrap it up with the last column. Again, we're just going to go in order here. We're starting with Steve Carell, and the new category is release date 2005 to 2014.
Yeah.
I want to say this is like an Evan Almighty era.
Yeah, Evan Almighty, Get Smart, I think was one of those in there.
Get
as
Smart
well.
would be a good one. I feel safer with Get Smart because Bruce Almighty was 2003. Evan Almighty couldn't have come out a year later. That probably would be 05, 06, but I feel like Get Smart is a little bit more recessed in the middle of that decade. I feel a lot more comfortable with that.
Let's go with it. I feel very confident in Get Smart.
Let's make a smart decision and get smart now. Ooh, 5%. We're doing pretty dang good on this one.
Not half bad, brother.
We have 4 single-digit percentages going on. Have we've never gone perfect, right?
I don't believe so, no.
Next up, we have release date 2005 to 2014 for Jack Black. I have an answer just popped in my head right away. It's one of my favorite all-time comedies ever.
Hit me.
And it's Tropic Thunder. Came out in 2008.
Absolutely. I think I'd feel sacrilegious if we didn't put that in.
I feel like we just have to do it because we make so many Tropic Thunder references on this podcast.
I make too many Tropic Thunder references in my life.
And for that, we should hit guess now. 10%. Okay,
Only
I thought that'd be a little
10%.
bit more popular.
Yeah.
Nick, are you ready to go perfect here? Because I remember
have
from
the
a
perfect
quiz.
answer.
What is it?
I have an answer to make this perfect. Whether it's probably going to be a very high percentage, but we could definitely perfect this out.
We might be thinking the same movie. So our last category here is 2005 to 2014 release date in combination with the actor of Kristen Wiig. And if you recall from a quiz a couple weeks ago, we were flabbergasted to discover that Bridesmaids came out in 2011.
Yep, that was going to be my answer.
It's gonna be a popular one, but I'm willing to just dribble the ball out in Game 7 of the finals.
Me too.
It doesn't have to be a dramatic slam dunk finish. We're just gonna dribble this bitch out.
No shame here, buddy.
Bridesmaids on 3. 1, 2, 3. Bridesmaids. Yeah, 66%. But we went perfect, everybody. We know movies. Nick said it at the top of this. He's feeling fully popped with his confidence. And we got a perfect, clean, non-negotiable 9 out of 9 correct. Top 10% of players today. Nick, we need to start tracking our top percentages because this is definitely the highest that we've gone.
This is pretty darn high.
And I need to let everybody know we do this at the end of the day. So this is when most of the people have already played this. So we are legitimately locked in at the top 10%.
This isn't a cheap score.
This is the real deal. Okay, let's see what the most popular answers were. Okay, so the one I was curious about was the 4 words in the title and Kristen Wiig. Apparently, Barb, what the hell is? I have to open this
Barb
image.
Star go to Vista Del Mar.
It's Barb and Star go to Vista Del Mar. That looks pretty hilarious, actually.
They're riding a shrimp in the poster.
Rookie move with people going with the original Kung Fu Panda for Jack Black. You got to go with the sequels. And Nick, freaking top tier pop here. Corn dog kernel up there. I was going to say the 40-Year-Old Virgin, which was the most popular answer for 4 words in Steve Carell, but you just busted out the Burt Wonderstone, baby.
Dude, you gotta know the deep cuts. You gotta know the deep cuts. Steve Carell's most popular for 2005 to 2014 was Crazy Stupid Love.
The Holiday was the most popular for Jack Black. So this tells me something. I think a lot of chicks do this quiz.
I was going to say it.
You know what I'm saying, Nick? Chicks.
I was going to say it. These are some chick answers.
All cap CHICKS chicks. I mean, just look at that. Look at that third column. Crazy Stupid Love, The Holiday, Bridesmaids.
Barb and Star go to Vista Del Mar.
I'm not saying all those movies are made for girls. I think I've seen all those movies, except not Barb and Star. But I've seen The Holiday, Crazy Stupid Love, Bridesmaids, enjoyed them all. But it just makes me think, because we went straight to Tropic Thunder and Get Smart. You know? Who does that?
We went with Burt Wonderstone, so that tells everybody what they need to know about us.
And with that, we're going to carry on this podcast and we're going to talk about the movie of the week. Like we said, we're talking about Solo, a Star Wars story. And this movie was directed by Ron Howard. Ron Howard and George Lucas, they did work together on American Graffiti, so that's how they know each other. And you might know Ron's daughter named Bryce Dallas, who directs a lot of Mandalorian episodes. The Howard family is besties with the Lucas clan. Does George Lucas have a family? I don't know. Is it just George Lucas in his house?
Well, I know he went through a messy divorce during Temple of Doom, so
that's right.
I don't know if he got remarried.
Yeah, we talked about it. This movie is written by, I see you wrote down the Kazdans. Is that how they're credited?
No.
Okay.
I just put them together. Jonathan and Lawrence.
Yeah, a father-son duo, Jonathan and Lawrence. Lawrence being the father. Nick, do you know what Lawrence also wrote?
I don't.
He penned a little movie called Raiders of the Lost Ark alongside George Lucas and some other guy named something Kaufman.
Everything comes around full circle.
Shout out, Indiana Jones is our franchise of the year. So if you haven't listened to those episodes, they're great and you should get right on it.
That actually makes a lot of sense, having watched this movie, that it's the same writer from Indiana Jones.
I'm sure that's making a bunch of stuff click over there. Who did the music here?
The score is done by John Powell, but it's all adapted from John Williams. They really reuse a lot of your classic Star Wars scores. I'm going to say this a lot throughout the film as we break it down. This is very much a fan service movie. A lot of callbacks or maybe call forwards because it happens later on in time. They tried to inject it with as much Star Wars and Han Solo lore as they possibly could. Whether that was a good thing or bad thing, we'll see.
Going what we were talking about before, when you have such a high, tall order of delivering on a origin story of a character everybody knows and loves, the fan service is going to get you positive points. The references to what is known as Star Wars Legends, which is decanonized comic books and stories, they do make allusions to some of those, because I do know that Han Solo enlisted in the Imperial Army and was kind of all about it. And whereas in this movie, he just uses it as a reason to become a pilot. So they do make allusions to the comic books and stuff that has been completely decanonized or loosely adapted. So they do throw out a lot of references to the beyond the canon lore here. And you can't have a Han Solo movie without a Han Solo. It's not Harrison Ford, because this came out in 2018 and he was probably 60 something. He's a grandpa at this point.
He's old.
Alden Ehrenreich plays Han Solo. Alongside him, we have Woody Harrelson, Emilia Clarke, and Donald Glover. Got a nice little lineup there. Nick, tell me about the monies here.
So we have an estimated budget at $275 million. This is a big budget production.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Is that the biggest one we've had? What was Fury Road?
Fury Road was 150 million. So this would be...
I think this is our biggest one.
This would be the largest so far by a very good chunk. Box office worldwide at $392 million. So it paid off.
Plus 42% there. Okay, Nick, before we open up on anything, I forgot to say this in the beginning. Look at what I got. Look at what I got at Disneyland. So in between our last recordings, I went to Disneyland, everybody. And check out this sick ass R2-D2 popcorn bowl.
That's pretty sick.
This boy is serious. Do not ask me how much money I spent on it.
I won't. I never do.
I want to address the audience to say I popped popcorn and put it in this R2-D2 bowl, and it was the first movie that I watched eating popcorn out of this bad boy. And I gotta say, it made it better. The movie and the popcorn.
Hard to make it worse.
Is he gonna hang out in the background over here? He doesn't make an appearance in this movie. It's one of the very few projects that R2-D2 does not make an appearance.
Not referenced, not anything.
The R2-D2 could possibly be one of my favorite Star Wars characters of all time. And he wasn't in this movie.
Sad.
Okay, I'm going to read this log line, and then let's start talking about this movie.
Let's do it.
During an adventure in the criminal underworld, Han Solo meets his future co-pilot, Chewbacca, and Lando Calrissian years before joining the Rebel Alliance. And we're going to talk about this in Plot Talk. Plot Talk. We're coming in on a Just Play It favorite. Instructions. We don't get any opening crawl that we're used to. No fanfare, no John Williams swelling, scaring the shit out of you with how loud it is. We just get the same font and font style and color of the A Long Time Ago in a Galaxy Far, Far Away. And it continues in the same font style of explaining that it's a lawless time. There's crime syndicates. They compete for resources, food, medicine, hyperfuel. It explains that there's this shipbuilding planet of Corellia and a foul lady named Lady Proxima that forces orphans and runaways into a life of crime in exchange for shelter and protection. And it ends with, on these mean streets, a young man fights for survival, but yearns to fly among the stars. Now, for these opening instructions, and in all of the Star Wars movies, it really just sets up the moment that we're in, but doesn't ultimately have anything to do with the rest of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Lady Proxima is not important here on out. It's really just establishing what you need to know in the minute we're in, and then the story carries itself out from there, which I think is always interesting.
That's a good point. It catches you up to you're right, catches you up to that opening shot, and then from there on out, you're going forward with what you have in front of you.
I feel like the opening crawl does set up a lot more that you'll see later in the movie, but for this one, it's very specific.
Except for that ending. On these mean streets, a young man fights survival, but yearns to fly among the stars.
Well, let's go these mean streets and let's meet these runaways.
We're introduced to our love story, our two characters here. We have our Han character, not called Solo yet in this film.
Just Han.
And we have Kira. And this is really set up as a lot about a love story. So they want to run away together. They're going to get off of Corellia. They're going to go on grand adventures. They're going to be outlaws, a little Bonnie and Clyde situation. And we learn a lot about Han as well. He's a bit of a scamp. He's a bit of a street rat, little Aladdin-esque. He's a smart ass. He's defiant. He's kind of everything we expect a young Han Solo to be.
And we see this with the first scene with Lady Proxima, who is played by Linda Hunt. And looking at her, she looks exactly like Edna Mode.
There it is.
Han's BSing his way out of a deal. He's trying to do. They're foreshadowing something that's going to happen at the end here. He's trying to pull a sneaky. He's trying to pull a sneaky double cross by keeping the hyperfuel, which is called coaxium. Lady Proxima sent him out to some rival gang or whatever, some crime syndicate, to sell it. And Han says, "Oh, they tried to take the money and take the coaxium hyperfuel substance, the hyperfuel chemical, and I got out of there with my life." But he's trying to do that. He's trying to have his cake and eat it too. That's what Han Solo is all about. So he says, "Oh, I just kept it, and I'm trying to create an alibi." Nobody believes him. Lady Proxima doesn't believe him. He improvises his way out and makes a grand escape from this dungeon room. I guess Lady Proxima is like a giant worm thing that's disgusting looking, and I guess the sun burns her skin. He just throws a rock through a window and it burns her skin, and then she has to retreat into a swamp.
If your weakness was sunlight, would you have glass windows around you? Shatterable windows? Or would you be in a steel dome?
I'm gonna go ahead and file that under nitpicks right now, and I'm gonna steal it and say it was my idea.
It's a weird one.
Glass windows. James said this.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this coaxium that they're stealing, this is the catalyst to everything that we do in this movie. The coaxium is super important and everybody wants to get their hands on it. Han wants to steal it to bribe their way off the planet. This is his meal ticket. This is his way off of this dump. They make their escape. They head to I almost want to say train station, but it's obviously not. It's like an airport. It's not trains.
I think
there are trains in this movie, but you can't take a space train. It's a space train station. But he bribes his way successfully onto the next ship out of there. However, on his way there to the ship to get off, Kira gets grabbed. Womp womp. Now, that's not good. So we have the separation of our lovers, and Han is freaking out. She's clearly been taken. He doesn't have the means to go save her. She's been taken by the Imperial forces. He doesn't know what to do, so he's going to go sign up for the military.
Yeah. And I want to point out something here. They do make it a point to showcase his lucky dice, his gold dice. So that's going to be a tangible prop that's going to hold a lot of significance through this movie. I think he put it up in the stolen speeder that he took from the guys he was ripping off. And they escape in the same speeder. And there's a funny moment when they're outrunning the Proxima gang. And I think the stormtroopers, like the cops on the cop motorcycle, when he says, "Watch this." And then he goes on his side and tries to go through a skinny alley. And this is taken directly from the original trilogy when Han Solo says, "Oh yeah, well watch this." And then the Millennium Falcon breaks down and Princess Leia's like, "Watch what?" And I just remember that from Family Guy. It's one of many references to the OG trilogy. These gold dice were pretty much a set decoration in A New Hope, and I don't think they were seen ever again after that movie. But then the sequel trilogy and the Solo movie do make the dice hold a lot more significance. So we're going to focus on those dice. Kira does have the dice when they get separated, and obviously we know Han's going to get it back in the future, so we know they're going to be reunited at some point. While he's running away from these Imperial guards and the Proxima goons, I just want to point out that he steals a kid's hat to don a disguise as he's going up to that Imperial enlisting officer. And the Imperial enlisting officer actually is the one who gives Han Solo his last name because he showed up solo as an individual.
If they ask him what his name is or what clan he belongs to, and he says none. So the Imperial officer says,
Solo. Approved. Good luck, Han Solo. We'll have you flying in no time.
And this rubbed a lot of Star Wars fans the wrong way. And this goes back to the high expectations and what each individual person feels would make the best perfect movie because of this nerd obsession they have. And this one angered a lot of folks. It doesn't really bother me. I take it. A name is a name, whether it belongs to your family and no one. How's the last name start and begin with? Someone just makes it up, and that's what this officer did. So let's fucking move on.
let's just keep going. So let's keep going. Han signs up for the military
because he wants to become a pilot.
Kira is taken away, and 3-year time jump.
We're time jumping to Mim Bam Boop. We're on a planet called Mim Bam. It's a mud-covered planet, and I made a SpongeBob reference too. Nick, what'd you put here?
So we jump onto Mim Bam, and there's this Saving Private Ryan style scene. People are getting blasted, shot. It's all out warfare on this planet, and from the background, you just hear "My leg,
my leg,
my leg, my leg," which is good.
He originally signed up for the Imperial Army to become a pilot because that was his dream. So he doesn't really care what avenue he needs to take to get there. So this was his avenue. But he's realizing that this is not what he bit off more than he can chew. He bit off more than he can chew Chewbacca.
There it is.
If I may. And he's questioning the war. He's questioning his captains and generals. And during this chaos, we are introduced to a character named Beckett, who we think is a captain in the Imperial Army. And this is Woody Harrelson. However, he is he's a more seasoned shyster.
Yes, he's a thief. He's a con man.
He's a bandit.
He's trying to steal some coaxium. Shocker.
He's on a son of a bitch I'm in type inside job. And alongside him is Val. And this is Tandy Way Newton. You might recognize her from Westworld.
Mm-hmm.
Alongside a 4-limbed Ardenian named Rio. And this is actually voiced by Jon Favreau.
Han Solo spots them right away. Says, hey, I know a thief when I see one. I know a bandit. I know an outlaw when I see one. I don't know what y'all are up to, but I want in. And they think about it for a second. And then, they turn him in and he gets thrown into this pit.
Yeah. He gets thrown into a pit and he's going to face off with the beast. And we're like, oh, snap. Is this a Rancor? I'm getting Luke Skywalker and the Rancor Jabba the Hutt pit vibes. No, it's our friend and pal, Chewbacca. Chewie.
It's such a fun reveal when you hear the noise.
And this is another, I don't know how the origin was hinted at before or if there's a comic book of how they met. This is the canon version of how they met. And basically they are two prisoners and Chewbacca is a little hostile because he hasn't eaten in 3 days. And he's like, okay, here's the drill. I'm going to beat up this prisoner that they throw in and eat him. But it turns out Han Solo does know a little bit of Wookiee language. Well, and he can communicate with Chewbacca and they devise a plan. And before this plan and after this plan, I just got to point out Chewbacca is ruining Han Solo physically.
Oh, dude.
He is throwing haymaker. He does Chewie breaks Han's back with a spinning suplex throw against the pole. And then that was before they made up the plan. This is when Chewbacca was sincerely angry and full of rage.
Yes. I'm confused because Chewie gets talked to in English the rest of the movie, but at this point he had to speak his language to him. Maybe he was doing that to say, "Hey, I'm a friend. I'm coming to you in your language. Please don't murder me." Because I'm sure everyone else that Chewie's murdered down there has also begged for their life.
That's a good point. We do learn later that Chewie is 190 years old, so we're going to go benefit of the doubt that he knows whatever the regular language is. I'm sure there's a word for it. I'm just going to...
Well, that's my thing. I just always thought he knew English. He just didn't care to learn to speak it, or can't due to his race's vocal cords.
The language is called Galactic Basic.
I'm also always, especially the newer Star Wars movies, the amount of people who speak Galactic Basic and then British, like the British accent just pops up randomly.
Switch
like,
off.
Where did that come from?
You know what? It's something they don't have to explain, and they don't.
There you go. So we make this plan to escape. Basically, we got to take down this pole in the middle of the pit, which why Chewie hasn't previously tried to escape by tearing out this pole, not sure. But he doesn't tear the pole out. He uses Han's body to dislodge the pole.
Dude, he doesn't tackle him not only into the pole, but through the pole. The pole is broketed from Han's. Han's got some strength. He's got some durability.
Durability. I was going to say, not sure if it's strength, but it's definitely durability.
He's definitely a tough son of a bitch.
So they make their escape, and they're running after the ship that has Beckett and Val and Rio in it, saying, "Hey, we still want to come, still want to be part of your crew." And eventually, through the benevolence of Rio, they let them on board, and they're going to be part of the crew. They're going to join in the heist.
They're a heist team, baby.
Yeah. So it's off to Vandor to pull a train heist to get what, James? More coaxium.
Gotta get coaxium, baby.
Coaxium.
Yeah.
Gotta get it.
The hyperfuel was all caps in those opening instructions. So that was a little hint that it was going to be a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to say Val does, they do this a couple of times. They name drop other Star Wars characters. Later on, someone says, "Oh, didn't you kill Aura Singh?" And Beckett says, "Oh, I just pushed her. The fall is what killed her." Aura Singh is that albino bounty hunter that was featured for 2 seconds in The Phantom Menace and then had a larger, more expanded role in the Clone Wars cartoons. Val says, "Why couldn't we get someone more capable like the Zan sisters or Bosk?" And Bosk is that Trandoshan lizard bounty hunter that we saw in Empire and also in the Clone Wars. Nick, I do have a fun Easter egg here for the Zan sisters. The Zan sisters are the first time. There's theories about them being connected to these other characters that are associated with the Pikes, which are kind of like the drug cartel crime syndicate in the Star Wars universe. But what I saw from Wikipedia, which sourced a tweet from one of the writers, Jonathan Kasdan, and what his tweet said, "Happy birthday to so-and-so. Be on the lookout in the Solo movie. The Zan sisters are an homage to this character from this movie." And I gotta say, this character from this movie is a movie we are actually watching next week. So there's a foreshadowing hint, everybody.
Holy smokes.
I did not plan this at all.
Wow.
Zero.
That is a fun Easter egg.
And now it's train heist time. You were talking about trains earlier, Nick. What are they gonna steal the coaxium from? Train.
From a train. So there's this whole elaborate plan. As you'd guess, everything goes wrong. Guards are alerted. Another group of bandits show up to steal the coaxium.
The Cloud Riders, is that what they are?
Yep, the Cloud Riders show up. Rio goes down. He gets shot. He's their pilot. So naturally you're thinking pilot goes down. That means it's Han Solo's time. Val goes down. She blows herself up.
She has to make a sacrifice play.
So all of a sudden we're going, everybody's dead except for Beckett, Han Solo, and Chewie. And this is where we learn that they're not just bandits. They actually work for somebody. And it's this crime lord.
There's some mercenaries.
There's some deep shit to the crime lord Dryden Voss.
From the crime syndicate, Crimson Dawn, which sounds pretty badass.
Super badass.
Yeah, that sucks. Anyway,
Anyway,
Beckett needs to go explain this to Dryden Voss, who I see you wrote down here. We're going to go meet Vision, which is Paul Bettany. Paul Bettany plays the voice of Jarvis in the MCU and ultimately Vision.
yes.
Paul Bettany is our big bad, I guess, in this movie. He doesn't have a lot of on-screen time. There's really a lot of antagonists and problems and challenges that pop up, but he is the big threat looming in the background. He is the lead of this Crimson Dawn crime syndicate. And they go to his yacht, which is a super tall vertical ship that flies through the air. And it's very hoity-toity. Everyone seems very fancy. It's very bougie in there. And it's a place where it's almost like a cranked up to 11 Tatooine cantina. And the canteen is full of outlaws and rebels and murderers. And this one's a little bit more white collar murderers, criminals, more calculated, organized crime.
Kind of the bosses, right? The crime bosses.
Beckett says, don't look at anybody. Don't talk to anybody. Who does Han Solo look at and talk to? Kira, who's conveniently here.
Yeah, she just randomly shows up.
I thought this was a little bit too convenient. It bothered me. The reunion seemed a little bit off. I felt like there would be a lot more, oh my God, how have you been? How'd you get here? What'd you do? They do try to pick that up later in the Millennium Falcon, but it just seemed a little bit what it is, too convenient.
Yeah.
Kira seems a little too cold and stiff, but as we learn from what she's gotten into, we understand it more. It was just a little jarring for me.
Right. And you could, like you said, well, it gets shown more, but she's working for Dryden Voss. We see that actually here pretty soon. And so she's sort of on the job and can't be shown to. And this is going to be my question for Kira throughout the whole movie. Is she being a bitch, or is she thinking to herself, I don't want Han, because I love him, to get caught up in whatever I'm caught up in. So it's better to just push him away.
That's the question that's in our heads the entire movie, and even ultimately what happens at the end.
So we're explaining ourselves to Dryden Voss, Beckett is, and instead of getting murdered because they didn't get the coaxium, we come up with a plan that we're going to go get unrefined coaxium.
Han comes up with a plan.
On the fly, has no idea how dangerous this is going to be. He's just trying to weasel his way out of this one. But unrefined coaxium is highly unstable. You have to get it to a refinery. So they're going to go steal it, and then they're going to have to fly it in record time. And I'm sure the writers thought to themselves, the second we mention Kessel, the crowd's going to go wild, right? The Kessel run in 12 parsecs.
They're going to steal it from the Pikes, and Crimson Dawn does have an agreement with the Pikes. And Han Solo, being an Aladdin-type street rat, scrum rat, shyster, scamp, outlaw, rebel rouser, he says, oh, well, they don't know that we're working for you. And then Dryden Voss is like, hand on the chin. Let me think about that moment. It was a very much this kid's got spunk moment.
Yeah.
And Han's he's showing his chops of being a con man, an improviser. So after they come up with this sneaky plan, again, a lot of sneakies in here, they need to make their way to Kessel, but you can't do a Kessel run without something to run from Kessel. And the best machine to do that is going to be the Millennium Falcon. Da-da-da-da. And we're going to go meet Lando. And this is played by Donald Glover. Was this one of those things where the fans were fan casting him and they did it? Or am I doing a Mandela effect on that?
I think so. I think that sounds about right. And maybe not even quote unquote Star Wars fans, just fans in general. Because Lando Calrissian, for as little screen time as he has in the original trilogy, is like a hyper iconic character for some reason. So it was a really important casting. Donald Glover, sort of not height of his powers, obviously.
I was going to say he was hot at the time. He was hot. Yeah, he was hot. Childish Gambino was catching traction on the ground.
Community.
I don't know when Atlanta came out, but he was starting to show that he is a successful rapper and producer. So I think it was a perfect casting for Lando. And we all know from the original trilogy that Han Solo got the Millennium Falcon from Lando by winning it from him in some sort of game or gambling thing. Again, this is going back to I don't know how it started, but I thought the dice were used in the game that he played against Lando to win the Millennium Falcon. But obviously, like you said, Nick, they kind of retcon some stuff. The dice were just with Han right off the rip how old is he? Is he a teenager?
I'd say here
Early
he's
20s?
early 20s. Yeah, I don't.
Maybe he's 30 or 35 in A New Hope.
That would make sense. I could see that being the case. Yeah.
I don't know the origin. Sorry, everybody. But we got to get the Millennium Falcon, and we're going to play a card game, and Han Solo is going to want to try and win that from Lando with a game of sabacc, and he's playing dumb. He's doing the classic hustler move of, oh, I don't really know what I'm doing, and then tries to go for the kill in this gambling game of sabacc against Lando.
And Lando's a cheat, but that's totally fine.
But he's smooth and suave while doing it, so he's cool.
So yeah, it's a very generic, I called it Casino Royale-esque gambling scene where eventually they both go all in. Lando lays down his cards like, sorry, dude, read them and weep. And Han hits him with that'd be a really good hand. If it wasn't for this.
If I didn't have full sabacc.
It's like, oh.
You say generic.
We knew it was coming.
Is that a bad thing? Or are you trying to say it like it's just a familiar scene?
When I say generic, I mean just I could see it coming. You can see it happening.
I think generic would be a negative light on it, and then textbook would be a positive light on it. I think this kind of straddles the 50-50 line of both.
That's a good way to put it. It's very 50-50. I don't love it. I don't hate it. I just accept it that this is just your normal gambling scene.
It's set in space, and they're playing a game we've never heard of, but we understand it's supposed to be like poker. So Lando cheats. He has this little gadget on his arm, like a Spider-Man web slinger trigger that brings out the best cards for the best hand, and says that he wins. Han did put up a ship that he does not own. How did they get Lando to go along for the ride? I know the Millennium Falcon is
Kira convinces
booted?
him. Kira convinces him that they'll give Lando a percentage of the cut of the coaxium.
Yeah, and Lando being a smooth talker, he's trying to get a high percentage, and Beckett is a seasoned outlaw rebel thief. He's like, I'm not having this.
20%, you're gonna like it.
Your ship is booted, it's been impounded. I'm gonna knock off a certain amount of percentage off your thing. And Lando can never be in the wrong. Everything he has to do has to be right and cool. So he says, I don't agree with it, but I accept it. So it's like, okay, just take the L and walk away, man.
Yeah. And he is now part of the crew as well. I don't know why he didn't just lend the ship, but he said, if you're going to be taking my ship, my baby, I'm coming along with you. And he wants to pilot it. And there's so many times in this movie, we know Han Solo's going to end up piloting it, but he doesn't get to pilot the ship at the beginning. So we're just waiting. We're like, okay, what's going to happen to Lando so that Han can go ahead and pilot the ship?
And not only is he part of the crew, but also his droid L337, L3 for short. She's got attitude. This is played by Phoebe Waller-Bridge. I think she's in that show Fleabag. I've never seen it, but it was very popular. She's got some tood. She's a toody droid.
Big tood. At one point, she's saying, hey, she's telling Kira, Han's in love with you. Kira says, no, he's not. Obviously, he super is. L3 makes the proclamation that Lando's in love with her, this droid, and it'll just, it just can't work because I'm a droid. The whole thing. The only reason I mentioned that is because I'm going to have a point about that later. But anyway, it's heist time, dude.
It's the most memorable thing from the movie.
Yeah, it is heist time.
Heist time. We're on Kessel, baby, and we got a secret plan and a secret mission. I think L3. Does she kind of improvise and go off script here?
Yes, L3 goes off script because there are robots who are enslaved. They have a magnet on them that short circuits them and makes them obey. And L3 is a free spirit and doesn't like that.
She's very woke.
So she ends up removing that. The robots go crazy, free all the other slaves who are mining the coaxium. And so we're going to have a heist along with a slave revolution.
A lot of fan service stuff going on here. So Chewie does rip a guy's arms off in the elevator. And that's going back to A New Hope when Harrison Ford told C-3PO a Wookiee will rip someone's arms off for losing the chess game or whatever the hell it is. Beckett is also wearing the outfit that Lando wears in Return of the Jedi. It's that helmet with the tooth claws on it. So there's a lot of references and callbacks, or like you said, call forwards to the original trilogy.
Another fan service thing that happens is Han is about to get wrecked by some guards, and Chewie comes in and just starts wrecking house, man. And you know, they wanted to give every Star Wars fan just the Chewie's the hero. Here's Chewie letting it loose, knocking some heads, murking some fools.
Chewie's on the loose. Dude, he does like an Undertaker choke slam and throws a guy on his head on the ground. That dude's neck is hella broken.
He's a murderer. We know that Chewie was in a pit eating people for a long time. He has no qualms with ending a life.
Chewie's in the pit.
He has no issues.
Pit Chewie?
No issues
is built different
with ending lives.
And absolutely no one in the galaxy knows what to say about that. And I'm sorry.
No.
Pit Chewie. Dog.
We do get this scene in this escape. It's a callback within this movie. Before the train heist on Vandor, all of our heroes were sitting around a campfire and talking, and something came up about a family versus a tribe, right? Chewie's people are his tribe or his family.
It was the Italian Job style. What are you going to do with your big score after this? And Han, I think he said, I'm going to go get a ship and go get my girl on Corellia. And Chewie talks in the Wookiee language, and they have to say, what did he say? And then Han says he would go save his family or get reunited with his family. But I don't know if he said family or tribe. And then Woody Harrelson Beckett says, what's the difference? And I don't think we ever get an answer to that.
We don't. But in this heist/slave revolution scene, Chewie sees other Wookiees out there, and he leaves Han to go save these other Wookiees, and we're assuming he's going to go with his people. And we're sort of called back to family versus tribe, because in the end, Chewie does come back to Han. That's his family versus the tribe. So there's the tribe you're born into, and then the family that you choose around you. So what's the difference?
I was going to say the opposite. The family you're born into or the tribe you choose. The idea is all the same.
Yeah, ideas there.
Blood family versus chosen family, I think is what it boils down to.
So we do get this coaxium. We're going to load it onto the Falcon. During this, L3 gets shot, and Lando loses it. Like he just lost the love of his life. And he runs out onto the battlefield and carries this droid back onto the Falcon. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, did Lando fuck the droid?
Lando fucked that droid.
There's no question, right?
And it's really weird because Lando has been so cool, calm, and collective, like a lady killer. I'm too cool for school. Anything you say, I got something cooler to say back to you. And then just this losing his shit moment really let you know Lando had a droid fetish, and he was not about it. But it went beyond a fetish. It was real. His love for L3 was real.
Wait, a little too real.
Lando did not carry her back. Chewie had to come in and carry both Lando and L3 back to the ship. Chewie's pulling weight, dude.
And now it's time. We have the coaxium. It's Kessel Run time.
Yeah.
Lando is indisposed because of what happened to L3. So obviously,
well, he's also, I think he got shot too. He's injured. He's shot.
Yeah, but he's still even still emotionally, he wouldn't be ready to do the Kessel Run.
He's a mess.
Obviously, Han has to take control of the Falcon, and here we go. We know what's coming. Chewie, turns out, is the co-pilot of the Century. So that just happened. This is where we find out he's 190 years old. He's been around the block, knows how to fly a ship, basically tells Kira to get out of the shotgun.
Well, no, Kira volunteers. Kira is riding shotgun in the Millennium Falcon, and then Han says, oh, put it into this. And then Chewie reaches from the back seat and does what Han says. And Kira looks at Chewbacca and says, dog, you got to be up here. I love this guy, but you know how to fly this plane. And you are obviously down for the cause. So get your furry ass up here.
I viewed it more as, hey, I belong here. You don't, bitch. Get out.
It was a little tooty. He did have a little sass, reaching his furry claw up there and kind of flicking it like, it's right here, you dumbass.
Yeah, that's how I felt about it.
He's 190 years old. He's sick of this shit.
We're going to do the Kessel Run. We got to take a shortcut through some dangerous, like an asteroid belt, just through some sketch territory. L3 had the navigation software of how to get through. They're going to have to take her hard drive out, plug it into the ship. We have an Imperial blockade that arrives. We got TIE fighters coming after us. And Han hits Kira with, I got a really good feeling about this, which is the opposite of Han's classic.
The classic, I have a bad feeling about this.
So fun, again, fan service. We shake the TIE fighters. However, now there's a giant space monster and a gravity well in the way.
Dude, there's all sorts of stuff going on. How many challenges can Han Solo face?
I had an issue because when they were talking about this Kessel Run, they're saying you will have not a minute to spare, but before that coaxium degrades and explodes and the whole ship goes up in flames. But they're running into a lot of roadblocks and a lot of shenanigans along the way that is really killing their time.
And this goes back to a thing that I have looked up in years prior of what is a parsec. Because in the movies, they make it sound like a parsec is a unit of time, like miles per hour. But in actual reality and science, it's a distance measurement.
I'm Han Solo, captain of the Millennium Falcon, and the only actor whose career isn't destroyed by this movie.
Is it a fast ship?
Are you kidding? It's the ship that made the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs.
Isn't a parsec a unit of distance, not time?
Wait. Joey, take these guys to the ship and get her ready.
I took it as, and this is my interpretation, I have no... Like if you Star Wars nerds are listening out there and you know everything or you think you know everything, just let me get on my soapbox with my Porkins t-shirt and go to work. All right. I took it as the fastest route is 20 parsecs, but Han Solo, being big brain, isn't necessarily making the run in a faster time. He's just finding a faster route. And he says, oh, we can cut through this. They call it something like an asteroid field or whatever. He says it'll be a shortcut. And nobody's daring enough to do it because it's a stupid idea. But he has a good idea because L3 earlier says that she has a really good navigation system. And I think they were doing a Disneyland foreshadowing because she says to Lando, oh, you couldn't even make it to Black Spire without me. And the Black Spire outpost is the Galaxy's Edge in Disneyland. So I think they're kind of, Disney was being a little cheeky there and trying to plug their locations. Because whenever they name drop characters or locations, people are looking it up and trying to see what that's from or what that's a reference to. As far as the parsecs are concerned, I think it's more so impressive that Han found a shorter route. Not necessarily that he just went to infinity and beyond with the speed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense, but it's still... Yeah, because everything they made it sound like is time. I did the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs. It just makes it sound...
Maybe in the movies back in the day, they just said audiences aren't going to know what a parsec is. We'll just make it sound like space speed.
Feels like something it was an oversight of Lucas, which we know he had quite a few in a lot of his movies.
Yeah, they said, that sounds cool. But yeah, it's something that has a lot of fans in question. But I saw it as Han figured out a way to make the route shorter, which justified it for me.
That was just weird. You wouldn't say I drove from San Francisco to LA in 390 miles. Like, oh, okay.
Well, I would, if you said that, I would say, well, I made it in 350 miles, bitch.
I think it's, I don't know about that one. So we do get a little conversation between Kira and Han at this point. We learn a little bit more about Crimson Dawn, how deep Kira is with the Crimson Dawn folks. And we do get a nice little part where Han says, yeah, I'm an outlaw now. And Kira says, I know the truth. You're not an outlaw. You're the good guy. So like, yeah, Han has always had a heart of gold. However, we got to get this stuff refined, this coaxium.
We're going to Savareen. This is the closest place we can get this stuff refined so it doesn't destabilize and blow up the ship. So they crash land on this beachside, sandy location. They are unloading the coaxium. And Lando, I think this is my favorite reference in the entire movie. Lando's looking at the wrecked ass Millennium Falcon which I gotta say, it was actually unrecognizable in the beginning. It seemed a little elongated in the front.
Mm-hmm.
And then we learned during the Kessel Run, Han ditched the escape pod, which was the thing in front that connects the two prongs that gives it its iconic shape. But now it looks recognizable to me. So Han ditched the escape pod that Lando had custom added on. It's wrecked, it's burnt, it's got dents. Lando's looking at it and he says, "I hate you." And Han says, "I know." And that's an obvious reference to "I love you." I know. I thought that was good.
A lot of either similar phrases or the opposite of the phrases that we hear in A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back from Han, and then the way Han interacts with people.
Yeah, so they're trying to get this coaxium refined, and then just like the train heist, the Cloud Riders show up. This is that third party marauders that that keeps fucking up the program. The leader is Emphas Nest, and they're very imposing. They have some badass armor and fighting skills, but Emphas Nest takes off her helmet, and it's revealed to be a child, and this is played by Aaron Kellerman. All of them remove their helmets, and we actually see Warwick Davis, who played the character of Weasel in The Phantom Menace, and I think he's the same guy. I think he's the same character here. They're just one of the many small groups of people rebelling against the Empire that will ultimately lead to the giant rebel alliance by the time we hit A New Hope. And so they explain that they're victims of pillaging and oppression by these big crime syndicates that have taken over in this imperial era of the galaxy. And we learned, they're not just a third party adversary. They actually have a good cause. They are making good with Han and Beckett and the crew to try and work out a deal because they really need the coaxium to better their people and better the survivors. And it really becomes a question of honor among thieves with Beckett and Han and the crew of what do we do with this coaxium? Do we give it to Dryden Voss and pay off our debt, or do we give it to these people and do the right thing? Which is exactly what you just mentioned in the previous scene of you're not an outlaw, you're the good guy.
Right. And of course, Han makes the good guy decision. He explains to Beckett that he's going to pull another sneaky, right? This is Han. He likes his sneaky. He's got a double cross.
He likes to double cross, baby.
Yeah. So there's this plan. We don't know the plan yet, but we know that something big's about to happen. And now it's time to go see creepy old Dryden and execute this plan.
I have an Easter egg I need to bring up, and I don't think anybody's talking about it, Nick.
Let's hear it.
On occasion, I'll watch movies with subtitles. I think Star Wars is a suitable movie to watch with subtitles because they say a lot of weird stuff. They name drop planets and names and shit I don't know. When they go to check into the yacht, they actually run into this fool before. It's the guy at the front that they check their weapons with. You know what this guy's name was?
I don't.
So his name's Tot, and it's spelled T-O-H-T. And I thought, is this a reference to Tot from Raiders of the Lost Ark? The evil Nazi German guy?
I think it is.
After I found out that Lawrence Kasdan was one of the screenwriters, I thought 100% this is a reference to Tot from Raiders.
Bang, dude. That's an Easter egg for you.
You're welcome.
Get learned.
Get egged.
So we're delivering this coaxium to Dryden Voss, and Dryden Voss does not seem surprised by this, and he actually foils Han's plan. And why? Because there was another double cross. Beckett went to Dryden Voss beforehand and said he's going to try and give you fake coaxium.
Because earlier Beckett said, I'm going to go my separate ways. Good luck with the Dryden Voss deal. I'm going to go Tatooine. I think there's a big crime lord there. Come see
Old
me.
Jabba.
Come see me on Tatooine, dog. And we'll bro out over there on that desert planet. But nah, he sold out Han to Dryden. Creepy vision. Paul Bettany. What's up with his face? Did he have like, was those scars or was that like veins on his face?
I think they were claw marks, like scars. It looked like maybe a Wookiee got him or something.
But I felt like whenever he got more furious, they would glow more red. I don't know if I'm just imagining that.
Well, he has some weird red energy.
Glow more crimson, if I may.
Oh. However, this double cross does not surprise Han because Han is 2 steps ahead, and there's a triple cross.
Triple cross.
Turns out Han has the upper hand.
Earlier in the movie, Beckett said, "Don't trust anyone." And Han took that to heart because he acts like he's all surprised when Beckett comes in. However, he's not, because he figured he had that Sabak card in his back pocket.
Mm-hmm.
He read his poker face real well on that beach, because he was anticipating Beckett being in cahoots, or Kira, because the audience does think it's Kira in the beginning, but then it's revealed that Beckett walks in. Han was banking on this because the coaxium is not with the freedom fighters down on the beach. It is right there in that room. And Dryden Voss had sent all of his hired best gunmen down to the beach to seize the coaxium. But it's right here in the room, baby. And it's down to Dryden, Kira, Han, Chewie, and the wild card Beckett.
And Beckett's the only one with the blaster.
Beckett's the only one with the blaster because he shoots the 2 guards. There's this moment in the past where Beckett says, "Don't improvise, stick with the plan." But this scene is all about improvising, because Beckett realizes
this was a crime of opportunity.
Beckett's like, double, triple, double cross.
Got to roll with the punches here.
Yeah, you got to roll them gold dice.
He takes Chewie with him, and now it's a fight to the death between Dryden Voss and Han. And Kira. Kira's there.
Kira's the wild card.
During this fight, Kira actually takes down Han. We go, another double cross. But then she pulls out the reverse double cross, and that was just to get Dryden's trust.
And then she stabs him through the heart.
So now we're thinking to ourselves,
who do we trust here?
But Kira's saying, hey, I just did that to save you. Don't worry, I'm good. So we got to go get the coaxium. Kira says, I'm going to stay behind in this room of Dryden's. There's a bunch of gems and jewels here. I'm going to collect them. We're going to have to sell them if we're going to go buy a ship and start our adventures. Psych. She instead closes the shades to the room and puts in a call to Dryden's boss. And who do we get revealed, James?
Maul.
Darth Maul. And everybody goes, what? Again, fan service moment. What?
Meanwhile, down on the beach, Kira sends Han to go save Chewie from Beckett. And we do have this pretty nice standoff between Beckett and Han. Han kills Beckett.
I like the kill a lot because Beckett starts talking to distract him. Says, here's the thing you don't know. And then Han's like, nah, and just shoots him with the blaster.
A la Liam Neeson in Taken.
Yes.
I thought it was gangster. It was a much needed moment for Star Wars. We get a lot of benefit of the doubt to the untrustable characters. Sometimes you just need to cap them. Han does go up and console Beckett. He does hold him in his arms as he dies. And Beckett even commends him and says, you made the right call. That was a smart move because I would have killed you. So Beckett is dead. And this is when we see Kira fly away. And then she closes the blinds.
Yes.
And then makes a super secret call.
Yes.
To Maul.
Yes.
Han Solo is he's back being a lone wolf plus Chewie. He's a +1. Emphas Nest says that the coaxium is going to help financially spark a rebellion against the Empire. And then we get this nice little ending with Lando, because Lando flew away. He bitched out and flew the Millennium Falcon away to whatever jungle planet he's on. And then we get a nice little ending scene with Han meeting back up with Lando. He catches on to his cheating ways and outsmarts him during the gambling game of Sabak, and says, "Oh, I won fair and square," which is a homage to the Empire line.
Another callback
of "I won it off you fair and square." And then Chewie and Han hit the hyperdrive, and we hit credits.
Solo.
And that is Solo, a Star Wars story, directed by Ron Howard. Do you have any nitpicks?
Nitpicks. I have a couple. Yes. My first one is that we never see Han become a great pilot. Everything we see is he never gets the chance to become a pilot. And then when he is a pilot, all of a sudden he's amazing. I would like to see maybe some progression, maybe him in the Imperial Army being a bad pilot and learning something, but he just is. I didn't like that.
My only rebuttal to that is that he he doesn't have a good skill of flying a jet or a ship, but he has good ideas. He has clever ideas of how to get out of situations. The train heist sequence, he takes over and he's a game manager at that point. The Kessel Run, he's full on quarterbacking the situation and making the calls, but he's not necessarily an amazing pilot because he is bumping into asteroids and scraping the Falcon on this sketchy territory that he's in. It's more so
He's pulling off some maneuvers,
it's more so his approach to it. But I do see what you're saying. Like we said, the introductory instructions did say this is a person that yearns to fly in the stars. In the beginning, Han says, "I'm going to become the greatest pilot that this galaxy has ever seen," or whatever. You do have a point there. I do think we could have used a little bit more flying stories or flying. I don't know.
Somebody teaching him or giving him some advice on how to become a pilot. I don't know. What if Rio would have shared some pilot knowledge with him that he could have taken on with him?
He would have just said, "Grow an extra 2 limbs, and then you'll be like me."
There it is. In that same vein, we have this whole thing about Kira in that 3-year time jump. She gets recruited into the Crimson Dawn, and multiple times they talk about she's done things these 3 years you wouldn't even understand.
Yes.
And she'll say things like, "Oh, I've done things." We don't even know what those things are. They just keep referring to these things. Maybe we could have had the story culminate with Dryden Voss say, "Did you know that she did XYZ?" And maybe make Han question her. Could have added an extra layer onto it, but we just talk about it and talk about it. We never hear about it. We never know what happens.
The Kira reunion was way too convenient, and she almost kind of like Han being a great pilot. All of a sudden, Kira is a stone cold criminal mastermind and is ruthless and heartless and makes the hard decisions. 3 years just ruined this girl.
Yeah. So, like, what did she do? Did she kill children? Did she kick puppies? Like, what happened?
She kicked little porgs. What's going on?
Yeah.
One of my nitpicks that I authentically brought up was the glass windows in Lady Proxima's lair. If you're a worm that is afraid of the sun, why you got windows?
That's a good question.
No, I'm just kidding. You brought that up. My honest nitpick is Wookiees. Why are they always imprisoned? A Chewie clearly
they seem like a superior race,
apex predator, and he clearly showcased that he is not to be with. But for some reason, Wookiees are always enslaved, despite being physically superior beings.
They're smart too. He's a great pilot / co-pilot. He knows how to fly the Millennium Falcon. So it's not like they're stupid. It's not a Master Blaster situation.
He's not a blaster. He is the master.
Yeah. The last one I want to bring up is actually the Kasdan plot hole. So this was brought up by the writers of the movie.
What is this?
It still bothers them to this day. And that is, why did Kira go along with them on the mission? They say it makes no sense. If this is one of Dryden Voss's most precious lieutenants, loves her, cares about her, has a creepy uncle vibe with her going on, why did he put her to go through this Kessel Run and to get on a ship with eroding coaxium? They didn't have a good motivation for.
Did he put her on, or did she volunteer to go?
Either way, why did he let her go? Right, he calls the shots here. So this isn't my plot hole. I don't know how to answer it.
I don't have that much gripe with it, because I mean, I guess they would be more critical of themselves, but I didn't really see that as an issue, because you can make an argument that Dryden just wanted to have a lieutenant on site to make sure everything was going according to plan. And he trusts Kira, but Kira obviously has feelings for Han. So that's where Dryden fucked up.
Yeah, I just brought it up. This is what the Kasdans are saying. For me, I didn't see this as a major plot hole at all. But for them, it keeps them up at night or something.
Well, you can relax, Castans. I had a talking point here. It's the tribe or family. What's the difference line? They don't give us an answer, and I assume we're supposed to connect the dots later. What would you say was the meaning of this after watching this film?
So I think by the end of the film, it makes a lot more sense, because there's the people you think you belong with, and the people that you end up belonging with, who you should belong with. And so for Han, he thought of himself as a thief. He thought he belonged with Beckett. He thought he belonged with Kira. He thought he belonged. And in the end, all of those things ended up betraying him. And really, the person that he chose, who was Chewie, is his family. So that's, or his tribe, however, whichever way you want to see it. But
the chosen family, yeah.
Yeah, the people that you've forced yourself to be obligated to.
I like that.
Or the people who are actually there for you.
I like that.
Yeah. What about you?
I like that. I like that you formulated that very well. The people you think you're supposed to be with, however, it's the people that are actually good for you. No, I do think they were trying to drop the motif there of chosen family. And at the end, it ultimately is Han and Chewie. And even, I think that log line even kind of hints at that. It says Han Solo meets his future co-pilot Chewbacca. So they're just ride or die bros from here on out.
Even Lando, in a little bit of a way, becomes a bit of his chosen family. Like a little brother vibe.
Nick, you got any talking points for me?
I do. Now that we've discussed the movie, in your mind, James, is Kira good or bad? Because she does act selfishly, but was her reason for acting selfishly saving Han from the Crimson Dawn and the Empire?
Depends who you ask. Are you asking Han or are you asking Crimson Dawn? Han or Dawn?
I'm asking James.
Oh.
The popcorn.
Colonel Pop says complex. No black and white answer here. Kira apparently has learned a life of crime in 3 years. And out of mercy and love, she is letting Han go. She's cutting ties with Mr. Solo because she knows what's going to go down if she betrays the true looming big bad, which is Maul, lingering in the background. Because our first introduction to Dryden Voss, he is murdering somebody for going bad on a deal. And then Han Solo and Beckett walk in and we're thinking, oh shit, these guys could get stabbed from his little electronic blade. But Akira says later, oh, everybody reports to somebody, even Dryden. So they kept dropping hints that there was some other mysterious puppeteer in the background.
A bigger bad.
There's always a bigger fish. I think Kira knew that it was going to go horribly wrong just based on what she's seen. So I think she's doing bad things, but she made a good decision in that moment. So you can't really say she's a good person or a bad person. It's really just the highs and lows, the roller coaster ride of an anti-hero character archetype of Kira.
I would agree with that. I would lean a little more towards good, giving her the benefit of the doubt. I think she made some bad decisions in those 3 years in order to stay alive, and she's just way too deep to ever get out. And so this one adventure that they had was sort of her swan song with Han, and it was fun, and she loved it, and she loves him. But eventually, because the last part where Darth Maul is asking her, Beckett must have had help. He must have had associates. And she says, I don't know. No, I don't know who it is or who it could be. She's protecting him. That's her goal here. And yeah, if she ran off with him, she knows that they would have come for her and put him in danger. So I think good, but just unfortunately got thrown into such a bad situation when she got captured on Corellia.
She's exactly like Han. She is in a bad situation, but she makes good choices because she's a good person. And I would love to see that character get explored later, but I don't know if we're gonna get that.
I'd be surprised.
My final talking point is a Han shot first. And this is a huge controversy. I'm sure you know about it.
Very much so.
With the original release of A New Hope, the theatrical release has Han Solo shooting down Greedo, which is that bug-eyed alien in the Tatooine cantina. He shoots first because he doesn't trust where the conversation's going. And then 20 years later, 1997, there's a remastered version that George Lucas puts out. And usually the fixes and the remastering, it's usually CGI updates or adding something in the background for more effect. This one, however, was very divisive among Star Wars fans because he changed the editing that Greedo shot Han first and then Han shot him in retaliation. However, in this movie, it seems like a meta callback to the Han shot first phenomenon when we have that final showdown between Beckett and Han, where Han shoots Beckett and doesn't give Beckett a chance to explain himself. First off, what do you think about the Han shooting Greedo and then the decision, the redo from George Lucas? And how'd you feel about when Han shot first authentically in this movie?
As far as the remaster goes, again, I think this is probably something that Lucas didn't even account for, didn't even know. And when the remaster came out, a bunch of Star Wars nerds lost it, and then it just became a meme. It's not that deep. It's usually what I think about most things. Is nobody really cared, whoever was working on the remaster.
I think it could have been an oversight in the beginning, and George Lucas maybe watching it in theaters and just knowing how it goes down thought, you know what? Han seems like a little bit too cold in this moment. Maybe I'll just change it. And then it just freaked everybody out.
You can't change nothing. Change is scary, James. As far as this movie goes, I like it. I like it a lot. And I think it adds a lot to Han's character. He shoots first and then he sees Kira go away. And you think to yourself, okay, this is now the colder Han Solo that is going to eventually become the Han Solo that we know. The no nonsense guy, he'll shoot first, doesn't have time for princesses or the Force or any of this silly nonsense. He just needs to go in, get out, get his money. He's got his Chewie, he's got his Millennium Falcon, and that's all he needs. He's over it. He's done. He's done getting double crossed. He's become a new person.
Yes, and just to cap that off, I think this is a deserved moment. Whereas in A New Hope, A New Hope was the very first time we were seeing Han Solo on screen. And when he caps Greedo off the rip, you're thinking, oh shit, Han Solo is a cold-blooded murderer and he does not give a fug. But in this movie, we know Beckett. We already saw Beckett tried to leave him on Mimbab and then had a change of heart and brought him in. But then did a double cross on Han Solo. And Han didn't like that. So Han is going through a fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. So I feel like him shooting Beckett first is deserved, and it's more justified in this movie. And I liked it. The type of choices we need to see more in this Disney era of Star Wars and Marvel and mainstream people pleaser movies. I thought, yes, shoot this guy, because he deserves it. Han shot first. And now I'm going to wrap it up with Popcornios. Nick, welcome back to the show. Clint Howard, Ron Howard's brother. He was the cockfighter guy, the guy who organized the droid fights when the L3 basically choked him out because L3 is not about droids being exploited. And Clint Howard was a skeevy looking guy organizing these illegal droid fights. So shout out Clint Howard via the Wraith, friend of the show officially.
Welcome into the circle.
All right, Nick, let's get into our mini pops. This is the awards section here. We're going to break down the best and the worst. Let's start out with the best weapon in this movie. What do you got?
So obviously the blaster pistol can work, but those little blade thingies that Dryden has that glow red and apparently cut through anything, I don't know what's up with those. I don't know their properties or anything like that, but it seemed pretty badass.
That did seem pretty badass. Han's blaster pistol was very effective. I think Chewie is just a weapon in and of himself.
Anything Chewie picks up becomes a weapon.
I don't want to underestimate Enfys Nest's staff, because that thing is crazy. It can shockwave. So it shockwaved Beckett across the train, and then it also I want to say cauterized, but I know cauterized is burning a flesh wound to stop the bleeding, but it cauterizes his pistol. It cuts through it like a lightsaber. So I don't want to let that go unnoticed. It doesn't have a lot of on-screen time, but it was a pretty sick weapon.
I like the staff. I can go with the staff here.
The staff?
Yeah, staff's pretty darn good. That's a good call.
We're going to call it the Enfys Nest staff. That is it. Speaking of fighting and weapons, let's move on to the best fighter of this movie. Nick, do you have a nomination for the best fighter? Who did it?
I'm going to say this right now. If it ain't Chewie, I'm logging off of this episode.
Yeah, he was definitely the clear winner here. I was originally going to say Emphas Nest because she did throw down on that moving train. She had a very cool stylized fight choreography, but just the amount of times Chewie was ruining humans, I don't think you can deny his brute force.
You remove that staff from Emphas Nest and you put her up against Chewie, and it's
death.
I mean, 5 seconds tops is what she's lasting. So, I mean, I think we just got to go with Chewie here.
Chewbacca is the deadliest warrior of Solo, A Star Wars Story, which brings me to my MVP. Or, Nick, should we make it MVC? Should we make it strictly characters here and omit actors?
I think so. I think character.
Well, just like this movie, we're going to retcon some stuff. We're getting rid of the MVP, move over MVP. This is now the MVC, most valuable character. My most valuable character is Chewie, and it's because he busted them out of that mud planet prison. He saved Han on the Kessel heist. He pushes that whole cart of coaxium to the Millennium Falcon. He loads it up. He carries Lando and L3 to the Falcon. Knows how to co-pilot right off the rip. And he's just, the full package here. And besides the Millennium Falcon, he provides the most familiarity to Star Wars fans from the original trilogy. So I think he's MVC for sure.
I like it. I went in a different direction. I went with MVC. I went with Beckett. And the reason is I think Beckett is actually a really good character. It's a progression, but he also doesn't change. He still is who he is. And I think he lays the groundwork for why Han Solo is Han Solo, right? Eventually, Han Solo wants to be like him and then realizes, I am you, but the good guy version of you. I am tricky. I am this guy and all that. So I thought Beckett was a very important character, like a catalyst for Han. And I thought he was the MVC because of that. I thought he was the best character in the movie.
Excellent answer. I like that a lot. Nick, let's bring it to a negative level here. Who was the biggest piece of shit in this movie?
Oh, the biggest piece of shit. So
I kind of had trouble with this one.
Yeah, because I decided that Kira was actually good. And the obvious person is Dryden Voss, but he's just acting like a bad guy. He's not necessarily a piece of shit. I guess Lando is the biggest piece of shit. He's a coward. He cheats at cards games. He's a little too suave and whatnot. So just because there's a lack of pieces of shit, I'll probably go. And he fucks droids. So don't fuck robots.
Bro, I'm going to meet you in the cockpit. Emphasis on cock. Because he cocked that droid. I was going to nominate Lando as well. Because he is the wrong type of shyster. He's out for himself. He tries to cheat at Sabacc twice. And he's a swindler and leaves Han out to dry on Sovereign. He's deserving of the biggest piece of shit in this movie. Even though the character of Lando and Donald Glover did an amazing job, I think just logistically, what happened on screen, Lando deserves to be the biggest piece of shit in this movie.
Yep, I agree.
And staying with this negativity, let's talk about scenes here. And we're going to start out with the worst scene, the worst first. And I feel like we're just going to be on the same topic. I feel like we're going to have the same scene.
Yeah, it's when the Kira reunion at Dryden Voss's party. It was a little weird. It was like you said in the plot talk, it was a little forced. It just didn't jive. It was very convenient. And I know that's how the story is supposed to go. And we find out why she's weird about it. But
it was a rift. It was a rift in the flow there for sure.
Was that going to be your?
No, we actually didn't have the same. I was going to say when Lando said they fuck droids.
I don't know if that was a scene. Yeah, it was just a. Yes. It's a thing I don't like about the movie.
I think you have a better answer. I just brought up something that I didn't like from the movie. So I think scene wise, the Kira reunion was a little off. We're just getting off on a weird foot with her, picking up her storyline.
Juxtaposing that, what would you say would be the best scene in the movie?
It's part of the Kessel Run. It's the part where they run to the Imperial blockade and there's TIE fighters being dispersed onto the Millennium Falcon. Beckett goes to get on the ventral gun Lando says, you can't do it in less than 20 parsecs. And Han says, oh, you can if you take a shortcut. Everyone's saying, oh, you're crazy. You can't navigate that insane territory. And then Han big brains it and says, well, earlier L3 said that she had the best navigational software ever. So he has the high IQ idea of downloading her database into the Millennium Falcon. So it's not so much that the Millennium Falcon is fast or that Han is a good pilot. It's really that Han is cunning and clever enough to think of this idea, and that the Millennium Falcon has great navigational abilities now rather than high speed. And I got to shout out a YouTube video, a channel I watch, New Rockstars. Shout out Eric Voss. He pointed this out. There's
Dryden Voss,
not related to Dryden Voss or Quinlan Voss, but Eric Voss of New Rockstars. He pointed out that L3's database lives on in the Millennium Falcon, which makes the C-3PO quip in the original trilogy of the ship having the most peculiar dialect hold a lot more weight. And then this scene does end with Chewie jumping into the front seat as the co-pilot. And this is just a sight that all us Star Wars fans are used to. So I think it's the best, even though it's not my favorite scene, I think it's the most important scenes for this movie. Also, within this sequence, I feel like they drop I looked this up after the fact. I think they dropped a Back to the Future reference because Han says, oh, I'm going to pull a maneuver that my old pal Needles did. And Needles is the character that Flea plays in Back to the Future. That was like a rebel street racer and ends up winding up in a car crash. Mm-hmm. And then when the escape pod blasts off of the Millennium Falcon, we get that iconic silhouette of the ship. It kind of came during the climax, almost the halfway point of the movie. I thought significantly and symbolically, it was the best scene in the movie. And I would say the standoff with Beckett and Han Solo at the end was probably my favorite, but I got to say the Han jumping into the pilot seat of the Falcon was the best scene that this movie could do for itself. How about you?
I like it. Well, you stole mine there at the end with what your favorite was.
Yeah.
I think it was one of our last scenes there. It was the standoff with Beckett and Han.
Yeah.
It actually is really good. I think it has the same reasoning for the scene you chose, which is it was Han Solo becoming Han Solo, right? It's that scene where that's that cocky attitude while he's flying.
Cunning.
I'm going to do it. Cunning. I'm going to jump and take control of this situation. And then in that last scene, it's him killing Beckett, still running over and comforting Beckett. And then the realization of Beckett telling him, this was never about you. And then seeing Kira fly off and see his whole world sort of crash down. And then knowing, okay, this whole story leading up to this, that moment, that last scene, that was the real origin of Han Solo. Right. All those lessons that he learned, he takes that all in. And now him and Chewie are going to venture off into the galaxy as Han Solo and Chewbacca.
Absolutely. We're on the same page there.
We are.
Nick, if you had a sarcastic selling point to pitch the Solo movie to me, what would you say?
Space indie.
Okay. That's a space indie. I said that this was a good old-fashioned Western with Star Wars charm.
Final review. Fight.
Okay, let's see what the other guys are saying. Starting out with Rotten Tomatoes, the critics, a sexy 69% of the critics thought that this was a good movie.
Ooh. And the people have it at 63%.
And shocker, we're going to be living in the sixes for this whole slate here. Metacritic, the critics are giving this a 62, translates to a 6.2 on our scale.
And the people have it at 6.1.
And now for our super cunning Kessel running 12 parsecs, not Star Trek's hyperdrive score from IMDb.
Another super sexy 6.9.
Oh yeah, we are on the same page, just like IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes critics. This movie's sexy. So that's what the other guys are saying. Let's see what we are saying. Nick, it's my turn to hit you with a laughable log line and my popcorn points and my final thoughts on this movie.
Let's hear it.
Han Nobody becomes a Han Somebody as he proves he has potential to become the greatest pilot in the Wild West of space. 7.5 popcorn points. So this movie for me is very good. It's super solid. It's the second movie I put at that 3/4 of the way mark, where I think it does enough stuff that is good and could definitely be improved across the board otherwise. And I want to get into the thematics of the title and the movie itself. So it's called Solo, a Star Wars story. Han Solo is assigned his name from this Imperial officer because he is alone in this world. So he starts off the movie with, like you said, a Bonnie and Clyde style relationship with Kira, and then they get separated, and then he is just a rogue agent. He is on his own. He is living the sweet single life of Han and Solo. He encounters all these people along the way, friends, foes, frenemies, and his whole story arc is, one, there's the on the surface fan service of how does he become Han Solo, and then the secondary storyline is he's coming into this world with nothing, and he's coming out with not only something but someone. So in the beginning, when he's meeting his pseudo family, his heist crew of Rio and Val and Beckett, Val says everybody needs somebody, and this is at that campfire scene, pre-heist talk. What are you gonna do with your cut of the share? And Chewie says, I'm going to go save my tribe or family. And then when Rio dies, his last words are, it's no good to die alone, kid. We're really hinting at a lot of, you can't be alone. You can't be a lone wolf. You have to have somebody watching your back. So Han he's trying to play it cool throughout this entire movie. He's trying to make it seem like he has all the answers, like he's independent, but he does understand the value of having a partner, having a co-pilot, and having someone who has your back. Beckett later on says, assume everyone's going to betray you and you're never going to be disappointed. Han says, this sounds like a lonely way to live. So again, we're going back to the theme of being on your own, being alone, and being isolated. This is where that final scene between Beckett and Han hits home for me, because Beckett knows that you can't trust anybody, and he's isolated himself from the world and has made so many enemies and has burned so many bridges. And Han understands that that's a reality, that you can't trust everybody, but you have to learn to trust somebody. And by the end of this movie, he does trust somebody. And we thought it was going to be Kira, but it ends up being Chewbacca, his bro, his brother for life, his thunder buddy for life. When Kira flies off, he thinks Kira is going to be his partner and his Bonnie to his Clyde. But she flies away, and there's actually this vignette around Han Solo's face as the ship flies away, kind of almost evoking a tunnel vision isolation feeling. But then whose furry armed paw comes into frame and comforts his shoulder? It's Chewbacca. Han Solo's whole shtick has been that he's this wisecracking badass wild card, but truly he's a softie at his core. And this has been shown in the original trilogy. He always seems like he doesn't care, and he's in it for himself. And then he always shows up at the last moment to save the day, because he understands the value of a chosen family and having people that you trust and building allies instead of making enemies. So he comes off as this cool and carefree guy, but he's always the person who comes back to pull a good guy move in a badass fashion, I'll say. So while he does make decisions that will benefit him the most, he will ultimately make decisions that will have a greater impact on others. And this is highlighted in the first act when he's surviving on the streets of Corellia, making individual choices for him and Kira. But then by the end of it, he does end up giving the coaxium to this group of freedom fighters because he knows it's the right thing to do. So he starts out this movie as Solo, but he ends this movie as Han Duo.
Nice.
It's a secret buddy adventure movie that we didn't know we needed. I do like the look of this movie. It's very earthy. It's toned down, the color scheme, the real locations. I feel like we get too much CGI in Star Wars these days. The visual tone is very Western. It plays like a space Western in this pre-Mandalorian era, with the band of outlaws, the train heist, the card games, the bar fights, the chases, the gun standoffs. Ron Howard knows what the people want, and for us, it's some good old-fashioned Clint Eastwood style plot told through a Han Solo dialect. It's got a hell of a cast. I think the banter is good. It only gets better as the movie goes on. There's plenty of references and fan service. All around, it's solid. And we get to leave Solo with our final shot of Chewie and Han hitting the hyperdrive as we end on the pair of dice hanging from the, it's not a rear view mirror because you can't see back there, but you know, it's 2 dice on one chain. And I like to think that it's just 2 best buds on the ship, symbolizing Han and Chewie.
All right. I love that breakdown, James. That was great. All right.
What do you got, co-pilot?
My laughable log line is the Han Solo origin story that no one asked for.
Yay.
I don't know what it is about this season, but you and I have been super on the same wavelength. I give this a 7.4.
Wow. Okay.
Anyone who knows me knows I have a weakness. I love reading people's opinions. I love reading comment sections on news stories, on social media sites. It's just so funny to me. I never interact. I just read and lurk on what other people are saying. So I went through on Rotten Tomatoes and saw some of the critics and saw what some of the people were saying and their scores. And you know what? It's a criticism I just really don't care for. It's if you loved the original trilogy, you'll hate these. I love Star Wars, and this made me not love Star Wars. It's get out of your world. Get out of this little world you built about Star Wars and enjoy a fun movie. Enjoy a movie about a guy who goes on these adventures. He's got a love story, gets his heart broken, falls in with a group of bandits, eventually does the right thing, gains a best friend along the way. It's a good story. It's a good movie. It's fun. It's entertaining. If you're not entertained throughout this movie, then that's on you. I don't care if it's because, I wanted Han Solo to be like this. Well, too bad, dude. Whatever you built up in your own head, in your own little world, in this fantasy world that was created on a screen, just let the story be what it is. And look, I know that I give people crap for not sticking to source material, but it's Star Wars, man. There's not that much source material out there. And if there is, there's 3 different source materials. This one's canon. This one's not. Everybody wants it to follow a different path. The creators came up with a good, fun story. I love the cast. I thought the cast did great. I think Emilia Clarke did pretty well. I loved Woody Harrelson in this and the character of Beckett. Donald Glover as Lando. Thought he played a great character. And look, it's hard to play somebody like Han Solo, but Alden Ehrenreich did a really good job. I thought the acting was good. I like what you said about the effects. There was nothing over the top. It wasn't super Star Wars-y, like you mentioned, outside of having Chewbacca. There's no lightsabers. There's no Force being used. There's no Jedis. There's no Emperor. It's a story, like you said, it's a vignette of something that's happening in this universe outside of everything else that we know about Star Wars. And it's a fun story. I don't know why you would be upset with it just because it's not Star Wars enough. Get out of here with that. I think it's such a dumb criticism. I think they nailed it. And if it doesn't exactly line up to a movie made 40, 50 years ago, then who gives a shit? Like, come on. It's 2018. Like, let them make the movie now. And if there's some inconsistencies, guess what? You're gonna still be able to fall asleep tonight. So it's a 7.4 for me. It's a good one. I've only seen this once before rewatching it. I don't know why. I need to go back and watch it more often because it's a fun movie. That's my take.
And you can stick that in your coaxium canister and smoke it and hope you don't blow up, bitch.
You're a blow up.
Well, that is Solo, a Star Wars story. Happy Star Wars week, everybody. That's our thoughts on it. That's our review. And we thank you for listening with us, following us along on this Kessel Run journey. And we invite you to follow us on our socials. Please follow us on Instagram and YouTube at Just Play It Podcast. Please follow us on X at Just Play It Pod. Please join us next week as we continue a journey adventure in space. I think I did drop a hint during Plot Talk.
No idea
of what the movie we're watching next time is, but it's a cult classic for show. It's from the 80s. I think you're just gonna love it, Buckaroo. And if that ain't a hint, I don't know what to fucking tell you.
I don't know what else I can say.
We're heading gone, and remember, if you grew up on a planet called Corellia and your dad built Corellian ships, as a job until he died, you're probably going to fall in love with an outdated Corellian ship and make it your ride or die to the end of time. Hit that hyperspace with your chewy, furry friend to infinity and beyond. We're out.
Was that going to be your?
No, we actually didn't have the same. I was going to say when Lando said they f*** droids.
It's a thing I don't like about the movie.